Welcome to the Intern Whisperer Live, the show all about internships and how to survive them. This is Jerron.
This is Isabella, and joining us for this episode is Aaron McDonald, a previous intern with Pivot Business Consulting and a graduate from Full Sail University. Also with us this evening is John Stimson, who attended Monroe College studying computer science and a previous intern with Intern Pursuit Game.
Also coming up this episode of Intern Whisperer Live, Aaron McDonald, Full Sail University graduate with a degree in video game art and previous intern, and now project manager with Intern Pursuit Game. John Stimson, who attended Monroe College studying computer science and previous intern with Intern Pursuit Game, and now the junior lead game programmer. We're also going to talk about some great leaders, entrepreneurship, and the coolest innovation in your industry.
So let's talk about our social plugs so that people know how to find us. You can find us on Facebook. We have a Pivot Biz Consult page. We have an Intern Pursuit Facebook page. And you can also find us on Twitter. We have a Pivot Intern Pursuit /game page too. So I always want to give a shout out because these are game guys with us tonight. We have our Intern Pursuit Twitter, which is at Pivot Biz Consult, at Intern Pursuit. So you can find us that way. You can find us also on LinkedIn. You can listen to us live on mixlr.com/Valencia College Radio. And you can watch us live on Facebook.com/Pivot Biz Consult and Intern Pursuit.
But first, let's talk about our first sponsor, Starter Studio, an accelerator and co-working area located in downtown Orlando. A cool co-working space to 100 plus companies working in areas of technology and supportive businesses. A healthy startup community doesn't exist in a bubble, and Starter Studio is working to connect startups to a broader entrepreneurial ecosystem that will help them grow. You can find them at starterstudio.org. Thank you, Starter Studio, for promoting the Intern Whisperer. Welcome to our Intern Spotlight with Isabella.
Thank you. I'm really excited. We get to play that first little 3-second piece, and this is like, ooh. So thank you, Sophie Lloyd, for giving us this really cool music that our listeners are going to be able to hear as they can really taste. I'm going to use a word that Aaron says, taste our game. Okay, so Aaron, you graduated from Full Sail with a degree in video game art, and you were a previous intern as Pivot. And now you're the project manager for our game with Intern Pursuit. So tell us here, why did you go to Full Sail? Why did you pick that school? Because I know how much you love it, but you know what? Other people don't. So let's give some serious love to Full Sail.
Yes, for real. Thank you for having me on the show. Great honor. And choosing Full Sail specifically, I did have a number of schools on my list. And I came and visited Full Sail, and once I put my feet on the ground of the campus and saw in person what the labs were like and all that stuff, I knew that was the school for me. Not just seeing the campus, but also knowing about the degree programs and being passionate about video games and not just playing them, but choosing the career path to develop video games. Their degree programs, at least they used to when I went through, it might be a little different now, but they had multiple degree programs come together at the very end of their education and enter a final project phase where they had programmers, artists, and producers put together on a team, and you're given 5 months to actually make a game. And so I think what better way to learn about game development than to be taught a very specific skill set and then be matched up with other people to put those skills to the test and make an actual product. That to me is the driving force for choosing that school.
That's really good. And Full Sail has morphed into such a really outstanding program that they have. I remember when they first came to Orlando and the campus opened up, I was teaching high school English, And one of the things that I was responsible for was being the prom sponsor. And it was, okay, I've got to raise money for a prom. How can I go and create something that's going to be a way to bring in some money? So we created a Battle of the Bands competition, and I reached out to Full Sail, and they gave, as one of the winning gifts for that competition, is some time to be able to be in the studio and be able to record the music and have it edited, which was really a big deal. You know, that school was really small at that time, nowhere near the Giant, because they had that whole back lot. Why don't you tell, I don't know if, you came down here, you had to have stopped in at the school, right? Last year
Wait,
when you came down, did you go to the campus and see how much it's changed since you've been there?
I actually did not have a chance to stop into the school. Well, that's not true. I drove through the campus, but I didn't actually walk around the campus.
Oh my
Um,
God. You've seen what they did on that back lot? You were in school when they were there, right? The back
oh
lot?
yeah,
Oh gosh. That's amazing.
yeah. That is just for the film students. They've created a whole bunch of outdoor sets there, like um, just like different buildings, gas station, water tower. It looks like a small city back there.
Yeah, it does,
Really
right?
incredible.
It's amazing. And I remember when I was taken on a tour and they took me through the 3D program, all of the artwork that's displayed on all of the shelves, and it's so incredible. So, did you have to create one of those characters that was a model of some kind of a creature or whatever I guess the student picked?
Um, yeah, like we had to do that. Uh, like I had to do that a number of times. Different digital creatures or characters. So I created several through the time I was there. Um, and they took us through the whole process of sketching it out to having a finished rendered digital model. And I mean that just learning that entire pipeline is so valuable. But you had also asked about some things I love because some people don't love Full Sail or have a good experience there, and I think that just comes down to perspective, really. Uh, all of us humans, we experience the same or similar things, but what we walk away with is very much uh, it's on a personal level how we take what's thrown at us.
Mm-hmm.
So me attending Full Sail, following my dreams, using honing skills that I have. I was always artistic, and so developing that even further. To me, that was just a great fun thing to do, and being in an institution that wants to help you along those lines and around people, particularly professors, the instructors who are pros at this stuff. They want to help you succeed. That to me is just so fulfilling. People will complain about like the money, like the school's so expensive. If you play the math game with how much tuition is at Full Sail, which is you do a 4-year degree in half the time, you play the math there with a traditional university. It's very comparable.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't understand people's money complaints there. Doesn't make sense to me. Education is going to cost money. That's just how it is. And so I believe in myself, and that's what your education is. It's a personal development. You're paying for that. You get out of it what you put into it. So if somebody's a poor student and they're not applying themselves and they expect people to just hand them out good grades or expect to just kind of eke by, it's not going to work out well for them. They're going to just have a bad time and probably blame the school, because a lot of people don't take that personal responsibility and say, this is it's not high school, it's college. You got to grow up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You got to be your own boss a little bit. Sure, you got teachers, but you have to manage yourself, manage your time. And so anyway, all that, my perspective with everything, I know people are people wherever you go. And so I just had a very optimistic view of things. And I believe because of that, I had an incredible experience. And since I've left the school, I've always dreamed of going back. I'm never going to go back but I mean, it was just such a good experience that it's like I miss it. I
Mm-hmm.
miss being in that environment of learning with other artists who are also learning, and you're critiquing each other's work, and you got, teachers who are teaching all kinds of new stuff about things you're passionate about. To me, that, like, how can you not like that?
Mm-hmm.
So pessimistic people have bad experiences. That's, you know.
I agree. I think it is the outlook that somebody has. So, going into you chose video game art as your degree, and I understand that. I think it's really cool that you got to do the sketching and then building the actual like creature. So it's more of a figure that you could play with. I kind of see it as a doll. Do you still have yours by chance?
um, I didn't actually make a physical
Ah, I see. I see.
one. Uh, Everything I've made was digital, and it wasn't a recreation of myself. I've made several characters that are just a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't make a replica of myself physically.
So yeah, because when I've gone and toured the school, and this is recent, maybe this is something that they're doing that's different though. They have these like a doll, like you could, and it's not a person. It looks like whatever they were creating that was in the game. So it's an actual physical thing I can pick up, and I could go, wow, this is what it looks like. And then they have what it looks like next to it in like a 3D format, so that the person that's touring the school can see this is, this is what they're learning. I thought that was pretty cool. So now we're going to move into your now project managing the team. Even though you have this great background in video game art, you understand the animation side of it, you understand the 3D side of it, and you've stepped in and been able to be very highly conversational with the programmers, which I think is really good. And quite frankly, I'm having to learn that now with the software team because they've given me some new things to learn. Like what we were doing in the game team, it was where we would set up tickets or issues, reporting issues like when there was a bug or whenever John and Alex would talk about that. So now I'm having to do some of that on my side with the software. Anyway, I digress. The point is that you have a really nice set of skills because you're conversational with the programmers. You can also relate easily to the artist, but you see it from a different perspective. So how is that different, being in this project management role for you? What have you learned?
Right.
Let's use our hashtag, what I learned.
Yeah. Well, I will draw from my experience at Full Sail some of the stuff, but I was trained in the arts, and even before Full Sail, I attended community college, majoring in fine arts. So that's very foundational for moving into the digital realm. And so at Full Sail, we did that game project, which I mentioned, where we actually made a game. So not only was I working with artists, I was also working with programmers and producers. So and we were all making the same game, each of us working on different parts, but being able to have the experience of going between artists and programmers, because they think very different. You have different needs, but you need some commonality there. I really drew from that in coming into this internship, where in the internship I started as an artist and then moved into the project manager. So I think that was really valuable, just that experience in my education. And so, I mean, I applaud Full Sail for doing that with their students, putting them in person with those different minds, the engineering mind versus the artistic mind. You got these right brains versus the left brains, and you got to meld because you got to figure out how to talk to each other, because there's a lot of technical things at work.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the project managing, for me, it's so easy to talk to the artists. And then the programmers, it's really, I think, communication skills come into play there, because I don't always understand the very technical things that they bring up,
Don't you
But
think it's like speaking another language? I do. I find it is just like, oh my gosh, when you're having to learn first, navigate personalities, but then there's also this added factor of, well, there's specific jargon that they use, and then how they think is very different. To me, it's all encompassing. It's like a language.
well, it is another language. I mean, if they're coding in C++, they're literally writing another language, telling a computer, like, I'm speaking in this language, you have to understand now. That's what they're doing. So when they talk about it in English amongst the team, they're not speaking to you in code, but they're talking about the code that they have to write. So it is very much another language.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that, to me, that was, I think that you have a really nice background because you have your own business on the side too, and that's not even on the side, it's like what you do. And I think that you've gone to quite a few, I know we've had conversations where, oh, you're going to this conference and you're learning this, and I feel like there's not even just the school has helped shape your frame of thinking for project management, but a lot of being an entrepreneur has also.
Absolutely.
So we want to promote you too. So what is your own business that you have? So tell us the name and all that good stuff.
Right. Well, I basically had my own small agency in the mortgage protection and final expense markets. And I do work with an IMO, which is an insurance marketing organization. And essentially, I just do contract work through them. And so technically, I'm my own boss. Don't really answer to anybody, but that's really valuable in many ways. Being that you have to work your own schedule, you have to basically being your own boss. If you don't do it, it doesn't get done.
Mm-hmm.
And so anybody that pursues anything in the entrepreneurial path quickly discovers that you are constantly growing in personal development.
Mm-hmm.
That never stops. When that stops, I mean, your production plateaus, or something along those lines. You start failing more and not succeeding more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big personal development game, and so to me, if you go after any type of endeavor where you have to work for yourself, to me that brings in new skills that you would not acquire working as an employee for somebody. And there's nothing at all wrong with being an employee. It's great.
Right.
But there's just a different requirement and more different things you get out of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love all that, constantly learning and growing, and that has really helped with how to manage the team in Intern Pursuit. A lot of skills there, they just translate. Even just modeling for the team, just being punctual, being at a place at a certain time, just having that
skills.
Consistency, that it takes practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So the soft skills are the things that either people have them or they don't. And if they don't have them, it's something that can be developed. Hard skills to me, are really easy to pick up. But if the work ethic isn't there, like, they value, like what you were saying, punctuality, being there. And in military, this is what I've learned from talking with people that are in the military. It's 10 minutes early. It's not exactly at that time that you think you're going to meet, because no, that is not on time. 10 minutes early, they tell us. So I don't know.
I run things a little bit different. I've always had a different mindset when it comes to that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to wait around. When I'm ready to go, I'm like, let's go. So I'm usually there on the dot, and don't linger beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
That's my style. That's how I run my show. I mean, I've before being in insurance, I was doing internet marketing for quite some time. And I got out of that. And actually recently I got back into that. And so it's very much when I'm dealing with myself and my time and my all that, my personal schedule, when I'm not meeting with other people, I'm not showing up early to my own meeting. It's
Right.
like I'm ready to go when I'm ready to go. And I think that that can perhaps be a bad habit in some cases, but a really good and effective habit in other cases where it's more efficient with time rather than waiting around and just going. But, you know, give and take a little bit there.
Well, I think that the reason why that they say that is because stuff happens. You could end up being late, and something happens on the road, whatever, or the dog runs out, whatever. So it can throw a person's schedule off. I think the concept behind being 10 minutes early is that you're there, you are able to still do something. Like people use their phones, they're really computers, and they can do things while they're waiting for the other person to come into the meeting. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, and I'm not saying that's what you think. It's like you can use those 10 minutes to still do something, and you're there, you're ready, and it's just a matter of being prepared. I guess the Boy Scout motto, always prepared. Show the three fingers. I think it's like three. I think I'm not sure. Not a Boy Scout, so yeah. So great leaders. Let's go over here to that one. So let's talk about who has influenced your life in a positive way that you believe is extraordinary. So on a global level, and they can be living or dead, on a local or a state level. And obviously these are not maybe people that you know personally, or they can be. And then on a personal level, like really like that person has been in your life, not just somebody from a distance.
Yeah, that's good. So on a global level, I'll go with kind of a cliched choice. Winston Churchill, I think,
Man, he gets a
is
lot of votes
He does.
here.
He does.
A lot of
is
people
it
vote for him.
have
They,
people
yeah,
have people said that
He's a popular option.
previously?
yeah. Well, and a lot of people say Jesus too. So we sit here and go,
Okay,
okay.
that was actually my first choice, but I thought
I,
that'd be even more cliche.
no, I figured that was going to be your personal level there.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I'll go with Winston Churchill because when that man came into power, I mean, being the prime minister of um, United Kingdom was like it was always his dream, and he went down that path. And when the time came for him to come into that position, the nation was in a huge crisis. Right, World
Hmm.
War II was kicking, and Hitler was just destroying his army. Uh, and so he had some big shoes to fill. His entire I don't know about the whole country, but like at least those in positions of power and authority were um, everybody was telling him that they need to negotiate some kind of peace treaty and not fight because they can't win. And is this very like he was just surrounded with such pessimism, and not only that, people didn't like his personality and things of that nature. And he managed to rally the nation and get everybody riled up to actually stand up to this tyrant and fight them, and over time successfully. And I think that's great. He utilized all the tools under his belt. I mean, he's really gifted with words, and that was a strong selling point in rallying the nation. And not only that, I like how just as a man he was very familiar with himself and developed personal habits, knew how he was most effective, and he just he was himself in that position, and I think that's great. I mean, there was years of development to become that type of man, but I think that's very inspirational, especially just the standing up against all odds against this tyrant and doing so successfully. It's great.
Hmm. Did you read a biography about him, or is this based on some other way
I
that you've learned about him?
I haven't done much reading on him other than what you learn in school.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen different portrayals of him through film and all that over the years,
Mm.
and I don't know that stuff. Seen little video here and there, heard audio clips, so that guy's just highly inspirational to me, I think.
Mm-hmm. I get it. So on a local or state level?
Yeah, yeah. Let me go with I'm going to go with an individual by the name of Art Leeser. He's a multimillionaire. He was born into a business family, and over time, he he was part of launching 4 successful businesses that went into the millions. And his latest is actually the IMO that I'm involved with. That's how I know the guy. Um, I don't exactly speak with him, or anything like that. I know of him and have been around his stuff quite a bit, but he has been highly inspirational in just watching how he runs things. He's a man of integrity, always does things with excellence, and I think that speaks volumes. And not only that, but he is very innovative, and he how I mentioned before about the personal development that an entrepreneur has to go through. He exemplifies those things, and I don't know. I the way he runs his ship is just I don't want to say it's contagious, but that is definitely inspirational. Because he's also a guy that he was involved with a former company that he launched into the millions with some other people. He got a distaste for the way some of the guys that he was in business with were doing things, and being that he was a man of integrity, he had to part ways and launch his own company, and that's the IMO I told you I was involved with and are contracted with. He just very inspirational. A lot of people in the industry talk down about him, say he'd never succeed, this and that. He just went after it, and he came up with strategy, concepts, innovation, and employed those things with integrity and excellence. And he's really been taking the insurance industry by storm. So that to me is very inspirational.
So personal level.
Yeah, on a personal level. Well, I gotta say, a pastor that has been in my life for a number of years. His name is Ron Friedersdorf.
That's a long name.
It
Say it again slowly.
Yeah, Ron Friedersdorf.
Friedersdorf.
That's very much a German name. Yep.
Yeah.
So I had some. I am a man of faith, and I wasn't always that way. I had some trouble early on. Very much black sheep. Did my own thing. Got in all kinds of messes. In my early 20s, I started going to church, and he was the preacher, and like the things that he brought to light from the scriptures just spoke so profoundly to me that I could not. I mean, it was as if God himself was speaking through this man to me, and it was so good, so encouraging. And I just need more and more. And I learned that God actually does talk to you through all these different avenues, meditating in his scriptures and having this personal relationship. And I've just had such incredible spiritual growth and development in my life from knowing that man and his influence. So I'm very appreciative.
That is really nice. So nice little shout out for all of those people that have given you guidance and direction. But I can only do one more question, so I'm going to pick it, and you got to be really short because we got to make sure we give John some special time too. So
You got it.
One piece of advice would you give to a student that is seeking an internship? So you got to keep it real short.
Seeking an internship. Okay.
Yeah.
Go after it, even if doors close in your face. Keep seeking. Don't stop. Just like the scripture says, keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking. Don't stop until you get your foot in. And then when you get your foot in, treat it like a job. Take it seriously. Some internships are paid, some are not. Even if it's not paid, treat it like a job. That's serious.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and because we should always work to the person that we actually serve. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And to me, I see it more as an investment, that what they're investing in, regardless if it's unpaid, they're investing in themselves. So they need to, just like you said, to me, well, we pay a lot of money to go to school, and somebody's teaching us there. So it's no different. If we're going into an internship and if it's unpaid, sit here and look, what can I do that I can make sure I'm giving a lot of value to this experience for myself? So it's an investment.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a stepping stone into your career. So I mean, don't don't take it lightly.
Yeah. So we get to hear some more cool music, right?
We do.
Ooh, yay.
All right. Thank you for your time, Aaron.
Thank you.
The Intern Spotlight with John Stimson, who attended Monroe College studying computer science and previous intern with Intern Pursuit Game. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great. Really glad to be here tonight. It's an honor. Thank you.
All right, glad to hear it. So, first question. Why did you choose to study computer science?
It's a lot of reasons. Since I was young, I wanted to create games, any type of game, video game, board game, anything. I like to come up with statistics and rules and work on that kind of thing. I chose computer science because it was an outlet that I could use to make games.
And what games did you grow up playing yourself? Just curious.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I can tell you the first game that I purchased with my own money was Risk.
Wait, the board game or real
The
life?
board game.
The board game.
Yes.
Mm.
Saved up for quite a while to purchase that.
That's a hard game, too. It's so much strategy.
Yeah.
So why do you think board games just in general were something that just stuck out to you? That's something that you kind of wanted to continue like in your adult life?
I think that everyone should balance work versus fun. I mean, you can't, if you live too much in one realm or the other realm, you get unbalanced. I like playing. I have a very good sense of humor, and I like interacting that way. And competing is kind of fun too. I don't get too caught up in it, but some people do. I like playing games.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And what is your current favorite game, like modern time anyway?
That would be pretty hard to narrow down. I have about 900 computer games.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness, a 900.
And that's not console or anything else or board games. So one game that I am playing right now, I'm playing Lord of the Rings Online. I like that because it's a true adaptation of Tolkien's work. So they took his world and they were accurate to the books. And I appreciate that.
All right, cool. A game I have to check out soon.
Yeah.
All right, so Isabella tells me that you're a continuous self-learner. Why do you see yourself that way?
Well, I didn't go to college for very long. I had to leave college because I had health issues. My appendix blew up and sinus infections and broke my wrist all in the same semester, right around the same time frame. So I had to learn on my own to an extent. I was a straight A student in high school. I'm intelligent, I guess. And it kind of goes into my whole philosophy on life is that if you're not learning, there's not much point to living to an extent. Every day you should learn something from someone. And that actually goes into my leaders. I have a favorite author, Louis L'Amour, and he dropped out of high school in 10th grade during the Great Depression. And he did many, many jobs. He started out as an intern. He went itinerant farmer. He went from place to place following the harvest.
Mm-hmm.
He was a prospector. He was a merchant sailor. He worked his way up to first mate on a merchant ship. He ended up being a general in the Chinese army. He was in 3 or 4 different armies. And everywhere he went, anytime he found books, he spent all his spare money to purchase books and read them. So, and he had almost a photographic memory. So when he got done with all those things, he had a tremendous, varied education. And I really appreciate that. if you focus on one thing in school, that's great because you're focusing in and you learn all the details of that one subject, but at the cost of learning everything else. You don't know everything else. So my approach to self-learning is learn everything you can from any source you can and don't say no to learning.
I love that. I think that's really how people should look at life. So this is why I was really glad to ask you this question, because a lot of people think that, oh, you have to go to school to get a degree, but we should always continue to learn, whether you have a degree or not. My mother graduated from high school, did not go to college. I would have put her up against anybody from college because she was extremely well-read and really could carry on a very good conversation on just about anything.
Okay, and also I know since you had mentioned about reading, are you a big reader yourself?
Yes, I'm an avid reader. I have a very large library. I read all kinds of books.
Do you have like a favorite
I also-
genre or a favorite book yourself?
Oh, let's see. I like no, it's hard to say because I have quite a variety of interests. One of the like Louis L'Amour, the author I mentioned before.
That's
he
westerns, right? Isn't that
he
westerns?
actually he's actually a pioneer writer. What he's always writing is about the frontier, the people who have the initiative, then the drive to go out there and explore and to make something out of nothing. And that's really what his story's about. It's not really about the Western feel. It just happened to be where he ended up, but it was about pioneering. And I think that's true of life. I mean, when you're going to do something great, you're probably the first person to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to self-learning, what programs and methods did you develop or did you follow to develop your skills?
Well, there's two ways to do it. I mean, I had a little bit of trouble with some of my advanced math courses, so I bought the textbooks and went over them about 3 or 4 times, going through all the problems, relearning and relearning and relearning. That's one way, and I'm pretty good now with my math studies. I'm take online courses sometimes, but primarily I just read everything I can get my hands on. You never know what you're going to find that nugget of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. And now that you are the lead junior programmer, how do you feel, or at least the weight of that leadership role on your shoulders?
It's a burden, but not a heavy burden. My background is I work a full-time job, so I work 40 hours a week, and then I do the team leader of the junior programming lead with Intern Pursuit. So in my retail job, I manage 13 people. And so I have some leadership background, and it's really interesting because I take some of the things I do at work to teach and train and bring that into the game industry. And then at the same other side of that, I'm learning some of the details with the game industry, and I take that back to my retail job and apply it to their work ethic and say, hey, let's structure this. We need to do this better. We can do this with a structure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually symbiotic. And I really appreciate the authority that I've been given because it helps me. It helps me do both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think that you probably, I don't know, I'm not sure if in your day job, if there are more team dynamics as what we have here on our side. I see it so strong in the game, and I always marvel at this. I was wondering if it's the same in the workplace there, or if it's something that you feel that you've been able to bring into your position at work.
I would say that I try to model that everywhere I go. I would say it's harder when the more people you add to the mix,
Mm-hmm.
with the more personalities, more with retail, you get who they hire. You don't get who you choose.
So true.
And you have to treat them and train them the same way, regardless of what you personally feel about them. And that's more of a challenge in some ways. When you're working on a game team, you're working at, like, I'm a team lead of programming, so I know the people involved are programmers.
Mm-hmm.
They have the same mindset, they have the same goals, at least. They want to make a game. So in some ways it's easier, and I prefer to work with a team that would already be as aligned to, but it's a good challenge the other side too.
Yeah, I like team dynamics because it just seems that things get moved along so much more quickly.
And ideally, would you like to go full time into doing and developing games?
Absolutely. Yes.
Hmm.
All right. And were there any other industries that you explored before picking the career path?
Oh, I thought about being a regular engineer for a little while, to mechanical drawing, CAD, that type of thing. But I really, that would become too stale, I believe. It would be, I like creating things, but I want them to also be fun. And sometimes with engineering, you end up in a place where you're designing bridges that aren't very interesting.
Hmm.
At least
And
that's what I saw at the time.
and what do you think the most interesting bridge you crossed?
Interesting bridge I've crossed. That's a tricky question. I would say, I've crossed some hard bridges. It's not easy to balance work life schedule. Uh, I'm a happily married man with 2 kids, and spending taking the time to spend time with them and to go to my 40-hour week job and to do game internship is quite a balancing act, but it's very rewarding. Um, I can say that pretty much every hour of the day I'm doing something in one of those fields if I'm not playing games.
And
But
what tips or suggestions do you have for any of our listeners who do have that kind of same situation and trying to balance that personal life and work?
I would say never neglect your family. Secondly, do what is absolutely required. And thirdly, you need to make money. So keep your full-time job until you don't need it.
Very true. True that.
All right. And going back to Pivot, what did you work on and what did you learn when you first started interning with Pivot?
To be honest, I didn't know anything about the Unreal Engine. I knew about it, and I knew my background was in computer science. Was I learned a little bit of C and C++ programming. So when I came into the game development, uh, I learned all about how to use Unreal from the ground up, and that's a very vast, powerful engine. What I walked into was how the game was working, but not very fun. So we took it from there, and now we've moved it along at least to the point where the game is fun as well as working. And that was a team effort. I'm not saying that I did that at all. I'm just saying that what I learned along the way was how to use the tools that were already there, but I didn't know how to use. So the Unreal Engine and how it works with C++.
All right. And did you start with Unreal Engine like 3 or did you start with 4? Just curious.
Started with 4.
Okay.
I think the mode we're using is about 15. We didn't go with the newest version because that was what was already in place, but it's a very robust engine.
Okay. Yeah, because like I'm not
interesting.
in any game development myself, but I follow a lot of video games, and I just know like of course when it comes to any of the Unreal engines, like I'm not sure how much of a learning curve there is, especially going from 3 to 4, and like how much you have to learn, like or how much of a step up that is. So I was just curious.
I did look at 3, and it's quite a different engine now. It's greatly improved.
Okay. And going back to internships, what piece of advice would you give someone seeking an internship?
Internships are supposed to be about learning. The student is supposed to get something. The person giving the internship is supposed to get something. What the student takes away is they're learning a trade. What the employer is getting from that is they're investing in the future. And my advice would be, if for the intern, learn everything you can from that employer, whether it's with the field that you're in or not. Keep your eyes open for any learning opportunity.
And at least with your time with Pivot, do you think, or at least what do you think you've learned outside of just game development? That's something that you weren't initially possibly interested in that you possibly like picked up along the way.
Let's see. I think I've improved team dynamic. Like I did have team dynamic at work, but the difference between working with people that are just doing there to get a day job done and working with people who are enthusiastic about developing something is completely different. So team dynamic, how to talk to people with a different mindset on everything. Like artists have a different language than programmers. So that communication is invaluable. Learning how to talk with them really helped. And that really, it is game development, but that's useful anywhere.
Okay, cool. And since I know you mentioned your retail job, what innovation have you seen in that industry since you started?
Oh, I've been with my Walmart job for 15 years, so I've seen them go from DOS computers. Now they're using basically Palm Pilots to do our work. Um, eh, the reports we work are completely different. Our inventory system has changed. Walmart is always investing in the future. The next thing that's going to roll out, and this is public knowledge, so I can say this, they are going to have robots that roll down the aisle and scan the sides looking for out of stocks, and then report it to the system, and the system will tell the employee to go and pick that and put it on the shelf.
Wow.
So that's some insane technology. That's coming. It won't eliminate my job. It'll just make it easier to do my job. But
It's got to be able to reach the top shelf to the bottom shelf, so that's amazing.
it's a 360-degree camera, so it's scanning. When it's I say scanning, it's not really scanning. It's taking pictures of the aisle as it rolls down. Craziness.
Craziness, yeah.
All right, and before we end your segment, let's talk about some great leaders. On a global level, local level, and personal level, 3 people that you find extraordinary.
Well, I kind of talked about a global leader, but that Louis L'Amour is a prolific author, and I recommend at least reading a few of his books. If you've read a few of them, you kind of understand where he's coming from. But another one, I guess, I take a lot of quotes from. Because of my varied learning, I read everything. It's hard to narrow it down. But Albert Einstein, I'd say, for a personal leader, I didn't agree with everything he said, but he's got great quotes. For instance, intellectual growth should commence at birth and cease at death, and I absolutely agree with that. So I know he's misquoted as much as it's almost like a Chuck Norris joke. Because who knows if it's really Einstein, but I believe that one did come from him. But yeah, he's with all the things that he did and worked on, he still found time to philosophize, and I think that was unique and interesting.
And someone on a local or state level?
I would say local. Local or state. My father was very influential in my life. He always told me that I could do and achieve whatever I put my mind to. And whether I could or not, that wasn't beside the point. He was seeding greatness into me, because positive reinforcement, even if it's not 100% accurate, it's speaking to the future. And that really was important in my life. From an early age on, he always does believe in me.
And what do you think was the best lesson your father taught you?
Perseverance, I would say. Don't give up when it gets hard, because really, if you give up, you'll never know what you could achieve.
Yeah, we're both going yes.
So on a personal level, I know it's cliche, but I'm going to say Jesus, because I'm a man of faith as well. And all my decisions I base on the moral compass that he instills in me. So it's very impactful in my life. It's a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
All right. Thank you for being our intern spotlight, John.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Let's play a little bit more music.
Awesome.
and let's talk about sponsor number 2, BMDM Marketing Agency. BMDM is a direct marketing agency focused on helping companies reach individuals through online and offline means. Their newest product enables them to send postcards or letters to the homes of anonymous website visitors within 24 hours of their visit, using a patented IP matching technology and our in-house on-demand printing. Thank you, BMDM Marketing Agency, for sponsoring the Intern Whisperer.
Yep. And I'm going to give a special shout out to Valencia College. As always, thank you for letting us be in this campus and also for being in the Valencia College radio. We really have been enjoying this. It's such a great atmosphere. But these students really are key here. They get so much from the professors. So thank you to that. Thank you for Q for always letting us be up here. I do want to give a special little peek at who is going to be coming in. It's going to be Lake Highland Preparatory School. They did a little case study of Intern Pursuit, the software. Gave great insight. They looked at content and social feeds. And so they created some blog articles that are going to be used, and they will be guests coming up on the show. And thank you to Lauren Dean for picking us to be a part of her real class study.
All right. And before we close the show, I just want to ask our guests, do they have any shout-outs? Aaron?
Oh,
John?
sorry. I was muted. Yeah, I want to shout out to Sophie Lloyd for the killer tracks she keeps producing for our game.
Mm-hmm. We love Sophie. She's going to be here in April. Sadly, she cannot be on our show again. She's coming down for a wedding, and they are like booked just right every single minute. But I am going to get to see her, and I'm really thrilled about that.
All right, but any more shout-outs from our guests?
Yeah, one
John?
quick one. I
Sure.
want to thank my family for putting up with me and all the time I invest in this game.
Oh. They play the game too, though, I hope.
Yeah, you do. Yep.
Yeah. What about you, Jerron? Shout out?
Shout out to my family as usual. Shout out to my friend Kendall Kruger, someone I hadn't seen in like a year and a half, who I hung out with today. So that was a good time and got me in a good mood, of course, for the show, of course.
Very nice, very nice. And so my shout out is always to all of the people that are with Intern Pursuit and with Pivot. Thank you to all of those people. And I'm going to give a shout out to the people that are coming in and working on TEDx Orlando. We're doing a focus on the future of education. So there's some interns that are helping with that. That's Ty and Gabby and Avery, and they're down at Starter Studio. So they're getting excited about it. So, I'm supposed to keep going. Sorry. I'm sitting there, I'm looking at you, Jerome. So, how do you contact us? It's info@internpursuit.com. And you can call us at 321-422-2166. And you can go to the internpursuit.com website and be able to find us there. Of course, on social, it's Facebook, Intern Pursuit. And then Twitter, it's @Intern Pursuit. And then watch us on our YouTube and our Facebook channels. So you take it away for us,
Of course.
Jerron.
And just like how we start the show with this is Jerron, this is Isabella, I want to do it with our guest as well. So whoever wants to start first, Aaron or John?
This is John. He's got it muted again.
This is Aaron.
This is Isabella.
And this is Jerron. Thank you for listening to the Intern Whisperer Live. We'll see you next week.